Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, July 7th. This is The Refinery, a weekly discussion about solving conservative messaging problems. I'm Leslie Price from the Conservative Union, and with me tonight is J.D. Bryden from Free Radical Network. Our partners at the Party of Choice are actually in the middle of or concluding. Andy's got a live demo or try. It's a tryout. He's broadcasting a live terrestrial radio show. He may he may be the real thing terrestrial radio broadcaster here soon.
Absolutely, and it's going to be so exciting. Hopefully that's actually the case. I mean, that would be amazing for the party of choice and for the state of Colorado for Andy to have his own radio show. I don't know that terrestrial radio can handle Andy. He's pretty awesome, pretty you know he's able to be both conservative, fun, and not ranty, yelly, you know, you're a schmuck. He's kind of not the prototypical.
He's like an entertainer teacher kind of guy.
Yes,
He does both. It's
when I first talked with Andy, the first thing that popped into my mind was that he was like a conservative Bill Nye the Science Guy. I know that
great.
that
No,
might
I
be a
kind
little
of
bit
like
of
it.
a that might be a little bit of a dig considering how Bill Nye has kind of stabbed us all in the back, all of his fans in the back since becoming a star and global warming activist and
He's proven himself to be less smart than we all wanted him to be.
yeah,
Well,
but
assumed he
his
was.
technique was still good. His technique of being fun and educational and you know exciting. Uh,
Yeah.
I think that's some of the similar things that you get from Andy and Corey and the Party of Choice. So
How
I'm
about we
excited.
say how about we say that Andy is like the Alton Brown of conservative talk?
Well, you have similar issues there too. I mean,
Alton's
he's
Alton's goofy and he's educational and he's entertaining and he makes you really like cooking and food and learn about it and enjoy learning about it at the same time.
yes, but he's also got that sort of you know what? I agree. I'll just put it there. There's no reason to.
Come on, Alton Brown has yeast sock puppets that fart
I
on
have
air. I
I
think that's
have
awesome.
I've actually got I and this is completely off base for the refinery, but I actually have Alton Brown signed cookbooks. I won tickets to go and be a audience member for Iron Chef America back when it first came on,
Wow, cool.
and yeah, that was an exciting and cool battle egg. Bobby Flay and some other guy I don't remember. Bobby Flay won, so
That's cool. Well,
as
yeah,
usual, it's kind of a thing.
a friend of mine turned me on to Alton because he knew that I was really into, kind of geekery, loving the science of why bread rises and the construction of the gluten molecules and all that. He said, Leslie, you will love this show because the guy is like goofy, stupid humor, which I like, and also science geekery and also food. And it's like, okay, that's the intersection of three things that I really like. And he's also Southern, so that's good too.
Yes, he's a cool dude. He's an interesting guy, and so is Andy. So hopefully Andy
No, he's
gets
Andy.
his.
So yeah,
Yes.
here's hoping. Here's hoping. Anyway, get back to the intro. We're live every Tuesday night at 8:45 Central on therefineryshow.com. Therefineryshow.com. That's therefineryshow.com. You could go there anytime, 24/7, to watch, listen, and subscribe to the show via YouTube or podcast. We are also broadcast from vigilantlibertyradio.us on Thursday evenings, and then you can listen to us on from Vigilant Liberty Radio any time of the day or night as well. But go to therefineryshow.com. That's therefineryshow.com.
And if you're listening to this now, chances are pretty good that that's where you are. And thanks to everybody who's in the chat right now. Uh,
Actually, I was thinking earlier. Actually, earlier this week, I was thinking of bringing over to this show something that we used to do on a radio show that I did before, which was like once a month we would do open mic Fridays, or open line Fridays, and we would allow anyone to call in, which is a dangerous, risky proposition
Oh yes, it's
when you're
extreme.
talking about hangouts. But as you know, I would maintain the ability to drop people off if they if they decide that this is porn cam or something. And there was one time where somebody who
Oh,
dialed in was just a little too drunk to even deal with. Um, but that
best not to name names. Best to.
yeah, right? Right. And since there's only the two of us this evening, I was thinking maybe we open up and at least share the link with the folks who are over there in chat. And if they feel like it, they can dial in and join the conversation live. Obviously there's no requirement to have your camera on, because I never turn my
Miss
camera on.
Cartoon Detective. Yes.
I actually am a live human being. Some people have seen. I have done video calls live on camera before, so there are some people out there who have seen me in real life. And Fishy has actually met me in person, so she knows that I'm real. Uh,
Yeah, I don't believe
you
it.
don't
I think that
believe
you're
it?
just yeah, I think you're just a scam that we've all been running. Right now, I'm pulling back the curtain, guys. She is not a real person. She is in fact an AI
Yes,
from
I
Texas.
yes I'm a Google AI experiment, and I really am the conglomeration of 1,000 minions in New Delhi and Mumbai, and they all combine together.
Yeah.
No,
Oh
that's
yeah.
not really working, is it?
No.
So, JD, did you want to paste the link over in the chat? I'm not even.
I will paste the link in the chat. Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
so if anybody wants to dial in, they certainly can.
Well,
And
first we should probably let them know what we're talking about first. That would probably be a good.
yeah. Oh, you think? Well, okay. What we wanted to talk about today was we wanted to start off with red meat rhetoric. The story of the last couple of weeks has been, and I think it's been like 3 weeks since Donald Trump said his outrageously outrageous comments, and people are still talking about it. And it kind of goes to a larger issue of red meat and conservatism and what we do with that. And then I wanted to tie that into some of the larger discussion that's been going on about American exceptionalism. What is different about America and our particular form of government from all the other ones in the world and throughout history? Why why do we think that we're so much different and superior, and are we really, and what is the difference, and how have we lost it? There have been some great articles on Ace of Spades and a couple of other places about oligarchy versus the republic, and what is our birthright, and have we lost it, and do we keep fighting for it, or do we give up and go galt, etc. I, in fact, earlier this week just threw out a post of a quote from Plato, and it triggered all of this discussion amongst people about stand and fight or run and hide. And I think there's a good mix of people trying to figure out what is it that we want to do and what's best for us. And so I wanted to really talk about that some. And then, of course, what's going to be the fun part of the evening, probably the last thing we talk about, would be the American press, which many of us think of as being.
Reaching new lows this past week.
Many of us have thought that the press, particularly with regard to Democrats and Hillary Clinton, has been rather supine. And this week they became quite literally, no, not literally, figuratively, bovine. So get along, little doggy. So yeah, we're going to talk about roping the press, which was pretty fun. Pretty fun.
Right.
So anyway, and it looks like Carrie.
Carrie.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I was talking about my friend earlier, and that's Carrie. My friend is Carrie, but Corey joined us. How did Andy do on his trial?
I thought he was awesome, and a lot of people were commenting on my Facebook page. She was doing great.
Excellent. Is he still on, or is he finishing up?
Just wrapped up.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So, is it a weekly evening show that that this is the normal broadcast time for it?
No, actually, it's kind of interesting. Most of the staff left KLZ, And so now they've got a number of slots to fill. So this particular audition is for the morning show, which is from 5 to 8 a.m. Monday through Friday.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's a pretty big deal.
yeah, drive time slot. I mean, that's actually the biggest, most popular, or the most coveted slot on the dial, isn't it? I mean, on the schedule.
Yeah, the early morning and then the evening drive. Yeah, usually 5 to 7 p.m. is also really popular.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll see what people think and we'll see what they decide, but I thought he nailed it.
Excellent.
Yeah, he even had a real feisty caller calling and want to fight with him, but he didn't let him.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's
As
the
we
thing.
we
I
did,
could go ahead.
I was just gonna say we basically said that this is something that Andy is going to ace. So we're very hopeful that he gets that. That would be so awesome if he did.
Yeah.
Uh, the way that you guys bring sort of a fun approach to conservatism and not just stay the same angry, you know, loud and shouty conservatism that I'm pretty sure we're going to be talking about very soon. Yeah, it's nice to have that, that presence there. So there's something that Andy definitely can deliver.
Yeah, he certainly can. And it's so funny because the reason that we don't do the whole outrage machine all the time is quite frankly, I don't have that much energy.
God, no kidding.
People do it all the time. We're just like, oh my gosh, how do you say mad all the time? Don't you find that exhausting?
Right, like Michael Savage and Mark Levin wear me slap out.
I know. I'm just like, I can listen to Mark Levin for like 5 minutes, maybe 7 if I'm lucky. And then
Right.
I'm tired. I need to change the channel.
Yeah, it kind of depends on Mark's mood, and it truly makes me love and appreciate the Hugh Hewitt, Dennis Prager method of radio style.
Yeah, or like the Laura Ingraham, because she can do outrage really well, but she has fun with it too.
Yeah, yeah. I don't listen to hers. I don't. She's not on at the time that I'm in the car as
Yeah,
often.
yeah,
But
she,
I
The
would
Michael
always.
the Michael Berry 2 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever it is
I
that
get,
you
yeah.
listen to.
The well, I work like a mile from my house, so even driving through the neighborhood and going slow so that I don't run over children, because I've heard that that's not a good thing to do. Um, Even driving slow, I'm still only listening to like 5 minutes worth of radio. And given the way AM radio is, if you listen to 5 minutes of radio, you're getting 30 seconds of the host, because the rest of it is advertisements and bumper music and more advertisements and the weather and the traffic and all of that.
I know, and then you get like a little blurb, and then it's time for more.
Exactly. It's
Yeah,
very frustrating.
I get it. And it's funny, I have friends who can listen to talk radio, do their super intensive jobs all day long, doing math and calculations and complicated title issues, and then, they're emailing me in between going, oh my gosh, did you hear what Rush just said? And I'm like, no, I'm doing math. I can't listen to the radio while I'm doing math. Are you kidding?
Yeah, I can't listen to the radio while I'm doing much of anything other than just driving.
Yeah, pretty much. So anyway, so that's the update on Andy.
Awesome. And basically that's what we wanted to talk about first, was that exact kind of uh, did you hear what so and so said, and then that becomes like the thing for the next 2 weeks. In this case, Donald Trump talking about Mexican immigrants the way they did, and all it just somehow people have latched onto that. And the thing that we need to remember is that this is still so early in the process, that this is still just, I mean, it's basically just entertainment politics at this point. But
NASCAR has a term they call silly season, and it's when the drivers are all negotiating their new contracts and everybody's just being really, really stupid, and it's silly season. And this is silly season for our POTUS candidates.
Yeah.
sure, but the thing that's kind of disturbing to me, or at least something that I've seen, and I've seen actually other people who've been really upset by it, and just the prevalence that I've seen people talking about Donald Trump's comments in sort of a solidarity, yeah, he's right on kind of way, and I don't get it. It's not. These are comments that I think that I mean, we can agree that he wasn't being helpful. He wasn't really winning anybody over there, except for this portion of our base that seems to be, you know,
It
willing
loves
and
the
ready
red
to
meat.
go, yeah, willing and ready to go along with it. And it's troubling to me when people like Ted Cruz come out and say, "Oh yeah, I'm 100% behind it. It's fine." We've had a lot of really good responses. Right? I know Carly Fiorina said that he doesn't speak for the party, doesn't speak for me. Same thing for a lot of the candidates. It's just, I hope that we as a movement can understand that this is not what we need to be modeling, and there are so many other more important and better issues that we should be paying attention to. And talking about, be it Rand Paul's tax plan, or the messaging that Carly Fiorina has on abortion, or what Rick Perry had to say. He had a really excellent speech that I was reading that Leslie heard, talking about how the left has so much let down Black Americans, and that whole situation. There are so many more important issues than what Donald Trump has to say, and I don't understand why it's become a focus. And obviously, I know I'm pointing it out here again, but it's really just, we're trying to say, hopefully people are going to not be focused on this for very much longer. Hopefully it just goes away, disappears. But it's troubling when you see people give validity to Donald Trump, or lose their own credibility, in my opinion, by trying to lend credibility to Donald Trump's statement.
Well, and the thing is, there is truth to what he said. The criminal element exists in our illegal immigrant society, and what he said could lead to some very helpful conversations about our immigration policy and how enforcement has worked and can work and should work in a mesh of federal and local jurisdictions, and how that actually works. And again, that's something that we have an awful lot of experience with in our Republican governorships, because the governors have had to deal with it on the state level, and senators have seen the policies and the legislation that they have tried to get, and had to deal with the pros and cons and the push and pull of all of the different players. And this could be a very useful conversation if we were able to honestly admit and say, yes, we have these millions of illegal immigrants that have come in, and many of them are contributing to our economy via working in jobs that Americans tend to not want to do anymore because they're fairly low wages. They are working at the low skill jobs that Americans tend to not want to do because the Americans have more skills. They're going to school and busy getting all their college loans. But there is also very much of a criminal element, and it is related to the demand for drugs that are illegal. And then we have this incarceration rate and so many people in prison because of our mandatory minimum sentencing laws. There are an awful lot of very useful topics that we could bring into this discussion and have a really good rational discussion about the conservative perspective on what these problems are and how best to deal with the problems. But what we end up doing is continuing to talk
Mexican
about,
immigrants are bad.
right, we continue, and
Bad. I
all
hate
we
them.
can
They're
talk
really,
about
really
is,
terrible.
we can't ever get to the point of discussing what the solutions are. We end up just talking about, does the problem exist, and is it good or is it bad? That's nowheresville. And by the way, it doesn't make conservatives look good or like an organization or group that anybody wants to become a part of.
Yeah. Yeah, I really didn't understand why Ted Cruz went along with it and said it was a good thing for him to say. That really confused me. I think that people are giving Donald Trump a pass that they wouldn't give to other candidates, because I think a lot of people look at his race and his candidacy as a joke. And
Right.
so they're just looking at it as, it's just Donald, whatever. He's a reality TV star. He's a bigwig. He says whatever he wants. The other thing that I think might be going on is that we're so sick and tired of being filtered all of the time by the PC police and the Social Justice League, that people are looking at him and they're just like, oh my gosh, somebody who says just whatever he wants to say and think whatever he wants to think. Now, I'm not
That's
saying that's good, because I think that It's what you just said, Leslie. We're allowing it to be a distraction instead of using it as a jumping point to jump into the true issues. You know, it's one thing to say, well, yeah, Donald Trump said that, but we know that that's not true. He was exaggerating. But what's the real issue here? Let's look at the real issue, and then you change it into what's really going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And the thing that's troubling is, and what I've actually seen posts on Facebook basically saying is that those items have been pointed out. It's pointed out that these are the things, but the response is, oh well, you're just some PC nerd. You just want to be you know, in with the PC crowd, and you know, that's something. There is a part of our base that for whatever reason, you know, doesn't really see the ramifications of this, and it's hard to disagree with them. It's very hard to say anything to the contrary, because again, you're going to get yelled at and shut down because of it if you allow yourself to be yelled at and shut down.
So how would you describe the people who are saying that? Are they like the grassroots? Are they the red meat conservatives?
I would say that they are conservatives who probably don't do very much at all, period. I think that there are people who like to, as you said, express express themselves, and you know, just because they can. They want to write on comment pages. They want to just let their opinions be known, and that's it. That's they're trying to fulfill themselves through these things, and it's again, as you said, I understand people feeling as though their voices haven't been heard for such a long time, and that we do live in such a PC police era, but you know, it's frustrating to see people saying basically that they feel like they want to retreat from being in politics because of just this deluge of people latching on to the rhetoric of people like Donald Trump. And again, we'll be talking about the whole concept of staying in the fight later, but you know, I don't know how you talk to these guys, and if it's even profitable to, because you know, we've talked about trolls, we've talked about people who you're never going to convince, who are so ensconced in their opinions, or who are just not interested in doing anything productive, that they aren't going to change their minds on these things. You know, I think it's just up to us to make sure that we continue to talk about the real issues and try and pivot back to those as much as possible.
Yeah, well, and I think that if you do carry on a conversation with somebody who's doing the chest beating guerrilla style, and oh well, I just think what he said was awesome because we're being held back. I think that the more you are explaining things the way that you are, JD, and the more you're explaining how, look, that was extreme, that was an exaggeration, this is the real issue. Remember, you're not trying to change the gorilla's mind. You're trying to influence the people who are reading those comments. So I don't think it's a totally lost cause, but I probably wouldn't spend a ton of time trying to influence that person because they pride themselves on having outspoken, hardcore opinions, and they love to scream it all over Facebook. I mean, you're just not going to change that kind of person.
No, absolutely not. And I agree. It's about influence. We've talked about this a bunch of times. It's about influencing everybody else, the people who are reading the comments and are looking for more substance than just I'm mad and you should be too, because you know, anger is the only thing that's going to get us out of this. We don't need to actually do anything. We just need to all be together and be angry. So, I mean, it's a frustrating thing, but hopefully we are not going to have people retreat from politics because of it. That's something that it does so much more harm than good.
Sure.
And that's something that people need to think about, is that what you're saying is that because there are a bunch of jerks being jerks, that you are going to let your voice disappear. You are really literally giving these people a victory by going away, by disappearing, because you don't, you know, you have a hard time contending with these loud, obnoxious people who are intent on being loud and obnoxious.
Right, and I think too that if you continue to be the voice of reason, that those people who are tired of the outrage machine and they're tired of the egos that they're seeing in politics, they're more likely to gravitate to something that you're working on, because they're going to be like, hey, you know what, JD is rational, he's reasonable, I can talk to him, he's not going to freak out on me, I want to work with him. So that could be a long-term reward to that type of interaction too.
Hopefully. Leslie, do you want to get into what you post your post over on Google Plus?
Oh, yeah. Somewhere along the line, I saw a quote from Plato that I thought was fascinating. Let me find it. And so I sort of turned it into one of those words on an image meme. The price good men pay for indifference to public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. And, the reason that this resonated with me is because I do see people stepping away and thinking, I'm gonna separate myself from politics and get away from politics because it's all stupid and who cares. And it's gotten so outrageously crazy. And what really resonated with me is that Plato said this thousands of years ago. So the battle of conscience that people are having of, I want to be involved in politics, I'm stepping away from politics, is not new, and it's not unique to the age in any way. It's not anything that humanity hasn't wrestled with forever. So, okay, it's a normal, natural instinct. So, I posted this with kind of a question to people who are giving up on political involvement, and it's sure, I absolutely understand it. There are things that you can control, and it feels like politics is not something you can control. Politics is something that it's complicated, and you have to study to learn about it to really have an informed opinion and even understand what's going on. And the people who are in it that you vote for, they lie and betray. I mean, there's so many reasons to step away from it and just step back and focus on your family and your community and your job and leading a good life, and let everybody else do what everybody else is going to do. And I understand that. And throughout all of human existence, a lot of people have been able to lead relatively comfortable lives in the oligarchy that is the most common form of government across the planet and across the eons. And if you're not really familiar with the difference between an oligarchy and a republic and monarchy and aristocracy and communism and anarchy and all of these different things, there is a video, it's 10-15 minutes, something like that, about the different forms of government, and it explains how anarchy and monarchy really end up being oligarchy, which is a rule by many, where it's just a group of people at the very top layer of government that make the decisions and are the puppet masters. And any kind of monarchy is an oligarchy, because it's not just that one king, it's the king and all of his advisors, all of the oligarchs, all of the aristocrats. Oligarchy is the most common form of government in the world today, and has been the most common form of government throughout human history. And this kind of gets to what American exceptionalism is about. American exceptionalism, what we did with our Declaration of Independence, and then the Constitution that created laws to guide the principles that we laid down in the Declaration, we created a republic, which instead of being a rule of man, is a rule of law. And the reason that once we created this republic, saying that we didn't have an aristocracy that we followed, who changed their minds and changed the lives of everybody underneath them, we had a republic where the law is in control, not the people. And what it requires is that the vast majority of people in the country need to remain engaged and need to remain involved. In an oligarchy, everyone who's not in the aristocracy, not only do they not need to pay attention to politics, there's literally no point, because they have zero opportunity to control. The best that they can do is carve out a decent life for themselves. And people do that in Venezuela. People are carving out a decent life for themselves in Cuba. And they did in Soviet Russia. They're doing it in Russia today. There are plenty of people who are able to carve out perfectly comfortable lives. And I am quite certain that most of the people on Google Plus, if America were to turn into an oligarchy just like the rest of the countries in the world, they would have perfectly comfortable lives, and they would still have Google Plus accounts, and they would still have their computers and their iPods, or iPads. I don't even know if anybody has iPods anymore. I don't do Apple stuff, but it would be
Yeah,
entirely
you
possible.
you put them in the Keurig. That's
Do
yeah.
what?
You put them in the Keurig machine.
The iPod.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha. I understand now. I'm a Google person. I'm an Android person. But it's perfectly possible to step back from politics and create what would be a nice little life for yourself, regardless of whether America remains a republic or continues on its path towards an oligarchy. And you know, uh, yes, we are working our way towards reverting to the norm, which is an oligarchy. We will stay a republic if we fight for it. And it means we have to remain engaged, and we have to fight for it, and we have to understand why it's better. The rest of the world understands that America is better. And there was a really terrific video by this Australian guy. And once I got past being distracted by his Australian accent, he was on Prager University. He explained what is, from an Australian perspective, why is America wonderful? And he explained rule of law and why all around the world people in all of these other countries will invest and do business and create companies in America because it's predictable. We have laws that guide the way corporations are set up and the way relationships happen, and it can't be easily changed by the whims of the aristocracy. You can rely on the form of government in America, and that's why we got this massive investment all around the world, and you can predict and you get a functioning high quality middle class, and you get great products, and you get the innovation is absolutely unleashed, and that is American exceptionalism. It really is something quite different from other countries throughout the world. As other countries in the world have adopted the Republican form of government, and many of them have, so many other countries are becoming great like we are, and some are even better than us because they aren't quite reverting to the mean as much as we are. But American exceptionalism really is a thing. It's not just being, like Obama says, just being proud of the country you're in, like Italians are proud of being Italians, and Irish people are proud of being Irish. I'm proud of being American. That's not it, dude. There's something quite unique about America, and it is our form of government. And it's the Republican form of government that we need to get back to and we need to fight for. And in this Plato quote, I didn't really understand that I was triggering a conversation among people
You're
about whether
triggering people.
yeah. This was apparently a microaggression meme. Is it a meme aggression? Micro, I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, but it did start quite this conversation of people about whether they should remain engaged or not. I mean, the very first comment was from a guy who said, I won't be voting anymore. And the next one was, I'm giving up on what America has become and its people. That just, wow, that hurt really bad. And then another guy said, good people don't have the right to give up on her, America, especially now when we're needed the most. And that guy was very much stand and fight. And then there's another one that really gave me a different perspective on the whole Atlas Shrugged thing. Somebody said, I'll take, where's Galt's Gulch? I'll take the next flight there, and I'll come back when everything is destroyed and help rebuild. And you know what? That kind of pissed me off. And I confess to having never read Atlas Shrugged because I don't hate myself enough to read that. I tried. I did try. I really did. But
Suffice it to say, your Team Reardon is
the woman needed an editor big time. But and so now I kind of understand that the people who went Galt, they ran away, they gave up the fight, abandoned everyone else, and let the world fall apart. And then once it had completely fell apart, they rode in to rebuild as if they were conquering heroes. Well, you know what? If I stayed to fight and they ran away, when they came back, I'd probably punch them in the nose. Because if you're going to run away and let things fall to crap in your absence, you don't have the right to come back and help me rebuild. And you don't have the right to come back and rebuild the way you tell us to. Screw you.
Yeah, no, I agree completely, Leslie. That's always been my biggest frustration with political conversations, are the people who say America just needs to burn, let it fall apart, it needs to go over the cliff. And it's like, don't you people get it? Rome never came back. Sometimes you can't fix what is broken. Sometimes,
Right. And a lot of very real people starved and died.
yeah. And, the country is kind of like a body, as far as our body is concerned. There are some things that you can bounce back from, illnesses, injuries, etc. Your body can heal itself. There are others that you cannot. You can't revive a dead person. And you can't just go after, just expect to allow the country to die, to fall to pieces, to go to absolute hell in a handbasket, and cheer while it's going, and then think that you can just ride in and rebuild it. That's not how it works, people.
In the chat room, all agrees that I believe that's true. For some, it's hard to keep up the fight for the country when your own side is fighting, and yeah, that's basically what I was saying before. Is that I've seen a whole lot of that on Facebook. Is people are infighting within the party. People are upset over, people making comments, be it Trump or whoever. And it gets back into my principles. I'm right and you're wrong, and we need to subdivide into our own little tiny groups that are, worthless essentially when it comes to doing anything electorally. So, going back to what Andy was talking about 2 episodes ago, talking about the family, talking about remembering that we need to still be a family here on the conservative side. It's super important because this is not a game that we can afford to lose. This is not a battle that we can afford to lose. It's something that we need to win, and you can't win if you are too busy fighting yourself.
Well, trust me, we've seen a lot of that infighting here in Colorado over the last month. I mean, our party
No doubt.
our party has ripped itself to shreds, so I get it. I know how discouraging it can be. I myself have been, looking at Facebook and going, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. These people are taking chainsaws to each other. Friendships that have been around for decades have been destroyed. And I think that's where you can't give up. You're going to want to. And sometimes you have to take a step away, and sometimes you have to take a break and take a breather. But ultimately, we need to remember why we're here. Why is it that we're fighting? We're fighting for a common cause. And I think that if we can, instead of drawing our circles smaller and smaller around ourselves until we're the only ones who are in those circles, because we're only agreeing with ourselves at that point, that if we can find areas of common agreement by taking the step back, and instead of pointing fingers at each other and saying, well, you're not conservative enough, you're a rhino, you don't even deserve to be called a conservative. Let's take a step back and let's start having some discussions with others when we don't want to, but reaching out that hand and saying, well, tell me why you think that, and then allow me to tell you why I think this. Maybe we can get back to the fact that we're all really fighting for this wonderful country, and we're all fighting for freedom. It's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of people digging deep and being the bigger person and finding like-minded people and then leading the way.
And I think that's absolutely true. And one of the commenters on this thread, his name is Reagan, which is awesome. His first statement was, "I don't know what to do." And then he continued on, and then he said, "But step number 1 will always be, don't give up." And I think that's really key. Step 1 is decide that you aren't going to give up. Decide that you're still in the game. And then even though you don't know what step number 2 is going to be, and you certainly don't know what step 3, 4, and 5 are, but as long as you really have figured out that step 1 is don't give up, you'll figure out what step 2 for today is. And I think maybe people, just like me, they get caught up in national politics
Mm-hmm.
and decide that I don't like politics and I'm going to step away from it and I'm just going to focus on cooking or cake decorating. Well, national politics is just one tiny subset of what politics is, and it's one tiny subset of the conservative movement. You can step away from national politics to save your sanity, and I certainly recommend that to everyone for certain for periods of time. Can you imagine staying fully engaged in national politics 24/7?
No, no, I
Um,
really
I
couldn't.
think yeah, I think it turns you
Well,
into
the
bad crap.
problem the problem there, and I'm pretty sure Corey can attest to this, and I certainly can vouch for it, is that every level of politics, and there are politics in your these don't even have to be,
Politics at work and at
yeah,
church
politics at
and
work, at church, at
everything.
every level, and at every single one of those levels there is a huge amount of minutia and stuff to pay attention to, and you know heartbreaks and annoyances and stuff. I can just say, working on a town and county level, there's so many issues here. There are just as many issues nationally, locally, as there are nationally, if not more. I mean,
Mhm.
we've got so many different things. If you want to talk about, you know, whether we're getting our money's worth on certain, programs, or if we should have been more
Where
focused on the
where are you
budget.
using this envelope company rather than my friend's envelope
Exactly.
company?
Or why are you using your friend's envelope company instead of this envelope company that's actually would charge you less? Or
Right,
why is it that you're also working at the envelope company that you happen to give the contract to,
right.
uh, and collecting a paycheck from those guys? But that's what I'm saying, is that there's so much on every single rung of the political ladder that it's important to pay attention. I can understand people being overwhelmed, but and that's exactly why it's not worth it to be disgusted by random comments that you're seeing on Facebook, or paying attention to the sheer amount of coverage that Donald Trump is getting, and the people who are backing him, and are saying that these things are relevant comments, these things are important to the discourse, because hopefully they'll
Instead of
stop
talking
being
about that,
relevant soon.
instead of saying that it's important to discourse, did you explain how it is and move on to the importance of the discourse rather than continuing to focus on Donald Trump? And most of us understand, have some familiarity with religious proselytizing, and don't hide your faith under a bushel. Shine if you're going to be an evangelical Christian. Everyone you know should know that you're even an evangelical Christian, because it's in the light of your eyes, and it's in the way you walk. It is a part of who you are. And we need to take some of that, and we've talked about this before, we need to take some of that to our understanding of conservatism, and how the world, many people, most of these people who are so frustrated, they're frustrated because conservatism is on the decline. Well, turn that around. You have the power to do that, and it doesn't mean presidential politics. It means living your life as an open, out and proud conservative, and letting people know that this wonderful, shiny, nice, brilliant, wonderful, engaged person who is a delight to his family and a benefit to his company, and all of these wonderful things that you are that way, and you're a conservative, and all of those things are mixed around together, and that being a conservative guides and forms you into this honest, hardworking individual who is full of integrity, and a guide, and an instructor to other people, and all of these wonderful things. That is conservatism, and that's actually conservative politics at the human interface level. And
Yeah,
that's you being engaged in politics at the level that you're comfortable with, at the
and
level that you can deal with at that time.
how many times have we talked about it, and we've done it, and we need to do more of it. There are certainly lots more subjects, but the conservative small talk concept that we've tried to continue to push by getting into conversations with people on the local level, and not even necessarily bringing up conservatism the first time you talk to somebody, or the second or third or fourth, but by talking about issues that are important and that we can present the conservative policy on, the conservative mindset on, we can actually change people's minds and get people prepare the ground, as Andy said, for future elections, and get them more likely to vote for your candidate, whether they're a state, town, or presidential candidate. So it's something that is incredibly important to do, and it gets you away from the kind of drudgery of presidential politics, or the stuff that might disgust you otherwise. It's actually having human interaction, not the fake whatever it is, hyperbole laden annoyance of what some Facebook conversations devolve into, some social media conversations turn into. So it's incredibly important to get out there and to talk about real issues. I know that's shocking, but you're going to hook more people that way for sure.
I did want to share one thing that our friend Delbert said. Delbert's been he's a member of the Conservative Union. He's a fellow moderator of the Conservative Union community with me, and he commented on this post. Frankly, there's too many conservatives going the way of Eeyore, while the Democrats and progressives and liberals gain mindless support of those seeking handouts from our government. To say there's no difference between the parties is fatalistic. To bow out and not hold the only conservative party that can win elections feet to the fire ensures that things will get worse. And this is as a response to some people talking about how the Republicans haven't done what I wanted them to do, and they're all the same and they're all bad, and I give up and I'm going away, and I'm just going to go sit in the corner and eat paste. And Delbert made a really good point. For us to sit back and be fatalistic while the progressives keep moving on, they keep moving forward, they're forever moving forward, keep pushing, never give up, never stop, and they never do. And for us to then get frustrated and say, oh, you're all the same, and we walk away, that is us willingly losing the fight. We're not getting defeated. We're walking off the field of battle before it's over. We are giving them the win, and it's the Republican Party may be losers, but actually they're not losers. They've been winning elections lately, and they are of the two parties that get elected to stuff. The Republican Party at least pays lip service to conservative philosophy. So we are justified in trying to hold their feet to the fire on conservative philosophy because that's what they promised to get elected. So we can keep pushing them, and that's the tool that we use to make our incremental progress, while the progressives are using the Democrat Party as their tool to make their incremental progress. And we have to make our incremental progress through the GOP and through our families and through our churches and through our place of employment and through our sports venues and through our clubs and all of the different things that we're going to do, and be politically active and politically engaged, even if you're not working for a political campaign, because working for political campaigns and working for politicians can suck the soul right out of you. I totally get that. But to give up and just step away and withdraw into your own family and do whatever to make as much money as you can and survive it, that is defeatism, and I can't really respect that or appreciate it.
Neither can I. And Leslie, I don't know if you've ever climbed a mountain. But being in Colorado, we have a lot of them, and they're really big.
I had an ex-boyfriend that made me go hiking, and I did hike up to me it was a massive mountain. Oh my God! To him, it was just a little hill. But yeah, I have, and it sucked, and it was hard.
I, for the record, have fallen down several mountains.
Holy cow! It's Andy. How are you doing, Andy?
What are you doing, Andy? Oh my God!
I leave the climbing part to Corey. In fact, she carries me. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, we won't talk about our hiking experiences, but the mountains that I climbed, Andy was not there. But anyhow, so we've got 14,000-foot peaks here in Colorado. And they're hard to climb because you start at, like 10 or 11,000 feet for the trailhead, and there's no oxygen up there. Okay, so it doesn't matter how good of shape you're in, it's going to kill you. But I remember the first time that I climbed one, and I got sick, and I wanted to quit, and I wanted to go back, but the people who were with me kept encouraging me to keep pushing forward. And they kept telling me, stop looking ahead, just look at your feet, and count your steps. It doesn't matter how tiny the steps are, just keep putting one foot in front of the other, or partway in front of the other. Just count your steps. Give yourself a goal of 10 steps. Give yourself a goal of 20 steps. Just take your time, we're here with you. And what was really cool about doing that was that after a little while, they're like, hey, look up and look how far you've come. And suddenly you see this amazing view around yourself, the view that you didn't think you would ever get to because you didn't think you'd make it around that bend that was, a half a mile ahead of you. And my point is, as conservatives, as Republicans, I think that sometimes we get so focused on the mountain peak and wanting to get there so fast that we get too discouraged when we're trudging along the trail and we're forgetting that we are making progress. We are winning battles. We are winning elections. So we need to celebrate those, just like I celebrated those 20 steps. Yeah, it's little, but it got me to the top of the mountain. And so when we do that, if we can start changing our perspective and celebrating the little victories, we're going to enjoy the big victories even more.
That's a beautiful comparison. I love that. And yes, in climbing that little hill that I look at the picture of, I'm looking at the picture right now, I'm going, oh my God, I thought that was a big deal because that looks like nothing on the picture. But I remember, oh my God, I can't do this. I can't do this. And I'm saying to myself, I can't do this. But I wasn't going to admit that to my boyfriend. And so I did it, and I was unhappy about it. But then once I got to the top, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. That's awesome.
And then once you're at the bottom and you finish the whole entire thing, oh, it hurts and you're sore and you can't walk the next day.
And I'm never doing that again, so help me God.
I'm never going to do that again, but I did. But what's so cool is you can look back and you can say, I conquered that mountaintop.
Now, I drive up them, and, I usually have some chips on the way, and maybe brownies.
Maybe a Diet Coke, yeah.
Well, the thing is,
Brownies. I hear they have good brownies over there in Colorado.
They do, and it's you see they've got the ones that and suddenly you're seeing several mountains, and that makes you feel like you're conquering several mountains, and while you're flooring it right up the hills, and
you're maximizing your mountain climbing time.
I am, and I feel good about it. Corey does it the hard way. But, I drive alongside, and I eat my chips. So it's really, am I losing you, honey?
You're the only one I know who can just come in and blow up a show.
Yeah.
He
wants to be a professional at this?
I know. He's got talent.
Forget that. I am so glad to be home.
Oh, my.
I am home with friends. I can be myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you better.
Hey.
When you're all big and famous, I expect to get like a personally signed coffee mug or something from your show.
Yeah, okay.
The first book. Will it
be an hour of hate with Pate? Is that what it's going to be?
What?
An hour of hate with Pate?
Sure.
An hour of hate with Pate. That's amazing.
I got to be honest, guys. I was so nervous; it was unreal. But really quick, what Corey was saying, wonderful.
Yeah.
Little victories. Why are we tearing into each other so much? Why are all the negativity? Why aren't we seeing the little victories and building on those and getting excited about each other and about what we're doing? And by the way, I married her. I marry smart people, so I'm kind of proud of that.
Well, and that in itself is a smart thing. You found yourself a smart person, and you convinced her to marry you. So you're quite the convincing person, obviously.
I hate to change the subject here, since
No, you don't.
It's always awesome to talk about that. But I want to hit on something that's happening in the chat room. Paul Collier, on the subject of how much incremental time we have left. That's not surrender sentence, but I believe it is distinct reality. What is needed is a major reversal that at least halts the progress but we have no great generals, just disparate warlords all selling their own silos. And George Templeton the Rat says, we have some in Congress, Paul, but we have to get them into leadership. And that means winning primaries and getting those guys more allies. And that's a very, huge point.
Yeah, it is.
That, we keep on getting closer to achieving that goal, and we certainly did in 2014, but we need to continue doing it more. It's definitely something that we need to get better at, and something that we need to improve our strategies on.
Mm-hmm.
But there's time to do that, and hopefully, we can actually set up to do that, and people should focus on that more. People in the movement. I mean, I don't know, and this has been kind of a big thing for me, is that it's frustrating to me when you have people like, I won't name names, but radio show hosts that say, we got to get such and such out of office, we got to get whoever out of office, and then what? And how does that situation resolve itself? Who are they actually energizing, and how are they explaining what the process is? There are so many people who are out there, the people who do the overpasses for impeaching Obama. There are people out there who are willing to do things, but those people are not given the direction of, okay, here's something productive that you can do. Here's a person who will create a walk list, which is a pain in the butt. I've had the privilege of making those up. And here you can become a precinct captain, a precinct chair. You can go and make sure that the houses in your neighborhood, all of the doors get knocked on, all of those things. Those thought leaders in the conservative radio sphere, they don't talk about that stuff. They don't talk about getting practical politics done. They do talk about the sort of popcorn politics instead of the stuff that actually has to get done in order for Eric Cantor to be defeated. And Eric Cantor got defeated, so somehow they accomplished that. Somehow somebody did something right. So there's a precedent.
The left does a pretty good job of putting their workers to work on something that can be, incremental achievements. They have their people doing, voter registration drives and all of the little things that we see on a long-term basis ended up being, oh, I thought that was just a stupid waste of time, but it turns out 10 years later, oh my God, they've really accomplished something while I wasn't paying attention. We were doing overpasses for Jesus or whatever that is, and they were busy, picketing. They were busy promoting free abortion for everybody.
Now that's actually Passover for Jesus.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
No,
I get all that confused.
What you're talking about is two big words: ground game.
Yeah.
And to us, we've been looking at that as kind of mundane, and we're not looking at the little victories, and we're not looking at the. I'll tell you what, coming from the left, this is a religion to them.
Right.
They put in the hard work, but the good news is, if we put in the hard work too, we're going to beat them because their message sucks. And it really does. Their message is, trying to control other people's lives, tell them what to say, how much to pay, how much they can make, how much this. All we got to do is get out there and get going. And I don't know, man. So much I'm hearing these days on the right is people are just feeling defeated because they're such a motivated machine. It's like we and do you guys think? I want to put this to you. Do you think maybe it's because so many of us work for a living?
Well, I think we have so many different demands on us, and we use our religious evangelical energy is put forth in our church and in our work, and we don't have as much left over for politics, whereas the folks on the left, they don't have church and they don't have work, so all their energy is left for politics. I just called them a bunch of unemployed heathens, but that's not really true.
So what you're saying is that it's up to me.
It's you. Yes, because you're an unemployed atheist. You do. Dude,
This is why we allow atheists in the Republican Party.
There are
What you're
activists.
here for. You are the ground troops. Now, just
There are activists. Minion. Come on, Minion.
you are the minions, the atheists. Now, this is going to be. I mean, let's face it. Why would I, as a Christian, want to lower myself to walking neighborhoods and doing the hard work? I've got you. Look. You already know I drive up the mountains. Okay.
Exactly.
And it's just confusing when you knock on the door and somebody answers. Do you say, "I want to share with you the good word of Jesus the Savior," or "I want to share with you the good word of Mitt Romney, the presidential candidate"? I mean, which
I want to share
one
with
are you
you.
proselytizing for?
All
I
I
wanna-
do is I point at JD and I say, "Hey, he's got something to share with you."
See, I should have known this. I should have known this is the case. Anyway, but seriously, it's something that is not treated seriously by too much of anyone. I don't know. I mean, it's
Certainly not year round. I mean, you know,
No.
the 2 weeks prior to an election sure
I can
will.
tell you this year I was out getting signatures for petitions in March. I was getting signatures, not petitions for candidates so that they could run. You know, that was something that I did in this past March. I was out there and I was walking door to door and getting signatures, collecting signatures for candidates. And I did that for multiple candidates. And it's not hard. It's just walking, and it's knocking on doors and having a list of names and going to them and hoping that they will sign your piece of paper saying that this candidate can run. But that's not ever mentioned. I don't know. You have people saying, oh, we have to have a convention of the states, constitutional convention. We need to do that. But nobody's saying, you know, what might work. It's such a crazy idea that it just might work. Is if you go to your local GOP, talk to your town chairman, and say, hey, I would like to be a precinct chair. I would like to, if there's no precinct chair in my area, I would like to be a precinct chair for my area, or I would like to be a volunteer for the precinct chair. It's not difficult, and people will kiss you. They will love you. They will be your best friend. You are automatically their favorite person in the world if you're a volunteer that actually goes and volunteers for stuff. And you're doing something that actually has an impact on real elections. It's something that is glossed over so much. I want to go back to the chat for a second and talk about the Mike Flynn campaign. And this is something that is a stark contrast, I think, when it comes to what happened with, what happens when you have a radio show host bloviate about, oh, we got to throw all the bums out. The case of Ace of Spades and Mike Flynn, who used to write for Breitbart and maybe still does, I'm not entirely sure, but he was running for Congress in Illinois, and
This is the special election to replace Aaron Schock.
Yes, he was, today was the primary, and he lost the primary to Ray LaHood's son, who somehow that happened. Somehow that guy was allowed to. But the point is that Ace was pounding this issue. He was, saying we need to support this guy. We need to get behind him because he's an upgrade in this particular election, and we can get it done. And it's a guaranteed GOP seat, so we need to make sure that we win this primary. And he actually was out there and trying to get people to raise money and try and get people to do stuff. And, what happened was Mike Flynn didn't win the race, sadly, today. It didn't happen. But that's the correct thing. The correct thing is to actually go out there and show, give some examples of how somebody can help, not just through donating money, but through donating time, through making phone calls for people. And we didn't win in this case, and we are going to be, if we complain at all that this LaHood guy managed to get in, if he is a key vote in the House, and I don't know if that's going to be the case, but this was an election that we could have impacted. This was an election that we could have sent a ton of money in, but we didn't. and we didn't win, and we didn't pay attention to it. So,
Hey, JD,
yes.
what's LaHood like? I mean, how would you characterize him?
I
Uh,
believe most of what I know about him is that he's a criminal and a crook and a corrupt crony kind of person. That's really all I know about him.
You're saying he's got a future in Illinois.
exactly.
Yeah, he is Illinois politics.
He's been certainly labeled a establishment Republican. John Boehner gave him did a fundraiser for him. He's getting the establishment money and whatever. But that's the thing. It's going to happen. And his dad is Ray LaHood, so who's in the Obama administration.
The rules were used to make it easier for him to get this nomination. They structured the petition process and the speed of the election, the dates and all of that kind of stuff was really geared towards making it so that LaHood could get elected. I mean, it's classic Illinois politics. The party machine, the oligarchs in Illinois decided who they wanted, and it was LaHood, and they made it happen. And there was an opportunity for us to prevail, but I think we failed. And we have to accept that and move on to the next one.
I agree that this is a real lost opportunity because, folks, when you have a safe seat, you got to put a liberty lover, a constitutional conservative in at that point so they can represent. But if I can go back to something JD was saying. JD, when you were talking about, people have to get in, rather than just hang signs from bridges and so forth, get in there and get to work in the precincts, become a captain, become a whatever. There's something else that happens there. There's one other piece of magic that happens there. When people stop hating each other and get together and work on a campaign and work in a district or in a precinct, you see people who are different develop chemistry. You see people who are different develop chemistry. You see Tea Partiers and establishment people listening to each other and moving closer and closer and closer together. And you see laughing camaraderie, even when they disagree on who they want in 2016. And you see, I've seen this. I've seen libertarian Republicans and Christian Republicans both talking about how, man, we got to win this. There's something about pushing and working toward a goal together that draws you together.
Absolutely, and I can just cite my Young Republican group that I'm in here in Union County. We have such diverse views, and I don't think that we have two people in the group that are for the same presidential candidate, and it's diverse as far as who is a religious conservative or social conservative or And we in our little private chat rooms and when we talk together, we playfully jab at each other. Whatever, it's fun. We don't. There's good morale. We're not angry at each other because somebody supports Rand Paul versus Scott Walker or Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio or whatever. And we have diverse views on everything from gay marriage to, just go down through the list. And we are able to function. It's mind-boggling to me because I've seen so many people who go nuts if you have a single, if you disagree with them on a single issue, and will ban you for life or we'll never talk to you again because you had the audacity to disagree with them on a single issue. And that's just not the case when you're working on a shared goal. I live in a county where we've had Democrat leadership for the past 17 years, and all of the people who are in my Young Republicans group have lived under that, have seen that, and are aware of that. And we have a goal. We have a goal to try and make our county better. Even if we have to do it, one dog catcher election at a time, we'll do that. And that's something that we've agreed on, and something that we try to do, and something that we volunteer and do stuff. We show up to events. We talk to people, and it's not a huge amount of work. It's just something that needs to be done that too few people actually do. And people who tend to be the most pissed off on the internet, what do they actually do? I want to know that. I want to know how many of these people actually go out and volunteer for stuff.
The real frustrating thing is a lot of those people who just get pissed off on the internet or on Facebook are really wonderful people who have so much that they can offer, and they limit their scope, they limit their audience. For this, and one other piece of magic that happens, the single issue voters that you mentioned, if a single issue voter gets involved in this way and says, look, I disagree with you, I like this candidate, you like that candidate, but we are a family. We are a family, and I just want you to know, I'm gonna push for mine all the way. But if yours gets a nomination, I'm in for the team. Here's the magic that happens next. People start listening to them more on their single issue. People want to hear. People don't tune out their single issue, even if they disagree. If you show that you are a member of the family, that you're a member of the team, then all of a sudden, all of these things that are so important to you that you think nobody else cares about, they're going to listen more to them.
Holy cow! How amazing is that? That people that you that have had some interaction with you might be more inclined to listen to you. It's shocking. It's absolutely shocking that might be the case. That if you actually talk with people, that they might actually be interested in hearing what you have to say, instead of just randomly shouting at people who you don't know, who you've never had an experience with, who you've never talked to. It's common sense, or you would think it should be, but it's not. And the people who are saying that, and that's the irony of it. The people who are in the shouting these messages at the top of their lungs, and why don't these idiots get it? Of course they're not going to get it if you don't actually try and address them like people, instead of being convinced that they're just dummies.
You catch more flies with sugar or with honey.
And it's more
fun.
With
vinegar. Or, as Will Wheaton says, don't be a dick.
Yeah, the physician.
Heal myself. Yeah, true.
But anyway, and it's also more fun. It's not fun to sit at home and just gripe away. It is at times, but I mean, it doesn't hold up. It's not.
Yeah, really. Speak for yourself, man.
Well, except for Leslie. Spreading hate is not fun for the rest of us, and
I am hate monger. Hear me roar.
Some of the single issue folks are people like me, born again, right wing evangelical Christians like me. We're the crazy people. I'm proud of it, and I always tell them, look, if you show this team attitude, if you show them that you're in it for the team, you might get more atheists like JD to do the work. This is a great goal. This is working. I'm
not cool. Okay, not cool. I was taking a drink. I was taking a drink. I've been sick. I've been sick for 2 weeks. And you try and make me laugh while I'm taking a drink.
I know, and you're still weak, and I can still do this. You're defensive. And you see, this is wonderful. By the way, you probably thought a lot of these people liked you. But I want you to know,
they're just using you.
They see opportunity here.
Reality is just my reality has been shaken from the very foundation. I'm seeing through the curtains of this vast conspiracy. I'm floored.
Well, I think it's only fair. You turned off your camera, and I didn't get to see you blow milk through your nose, because that would have been entertaining. I can't believe you turned off your camera.
Oh, yeah, because people want to. It's been proven that people love watching Republicans drink water on camera. I'm sorry, I should have.
For success, you need to be drinking water on camera, JD, because then everybody's like, "Ooh, check that out! Replay."
Of course.
Look, JD went all Rubio on us.
And then when we eventually open up the Refinery store, we can sell themed water bottles. It'll be awesome.
We could sell them and we could say, JD drank out of this water bottle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but we don't want to. I've got germs, so I can't be like
No,
drinking.
we'll wash them, but we'll
Yeah,
just
okay.
like the flag that flew over the Capitol. Well,
JD,
JD drank out of this water
we
bottle.
wash anything the atheists touch. Just, it's a ceremonial
Oh
thing.
my gosh.
It's a ceremonial thing. We burn a lot of it, especially the Jets T-shirts.
Oh.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know. I'm sorry, that must have been hurtful.
I think that comment might actually get JD west of the Mississippi.
No, because I'm scared of what you guys might do, man.
No, JD's going to go kick Andy's butt. And we're going to sell tickets for it, and it'll be a profit-making.
We're just coming up with all kinds of fundraiser ideas.
JD, you're going to have to get in line behind my wife because she's very protective of you. She gets very angry at me when I do this to you. Yeah, left an imprint. There's a handprint. People gotta get tattoos.
That's funny. I think that we should probably move on to the last topic that we wanted to address
Well,
tonight. Well,
I
sorry, go
did.
ahead.
I did want to close out the
Please do.
stay in the fight argument, or the stay in the fight section, with a quote from Brad Thor. I don't know if everybody knows who Brad Thor is. He's a
Crew
he's a
in the chat knows
conservative.
who it is.
Yeah, he's a conservative thriller author, and I won't say that I enjoy looking at photographs of Brad Thor, but I'm not saying that he's a very good-looking man. Very good-looking man. Anyway, he wrote an article today in the American Spectator about staying in the fight. And he says that it was suggested by a friend in Delta Force. I was signing a book for him, and I asked him what he wanted me to write. This friend said, "Stay in the fight." He then told me he thought I should sign all of my books that way. The more I used it, the more the phrase took on special meaning for me. Stay in the fight isn't a rallying cry only for people on a battlefield. It can apply to anyone fighting for something they believe in. If you get knocked down, you get back up. You stay in the fight. You don't give up. And that's where we are, guys. We feel like we've been knocked down by all of these stupid judicial rulings, and knowing that there are an awful lot of lifetime judges that have been passed by, thanks to Harry Reid getting rid of the filibuster rule. So we know that the future of court cases is going to be against us, and we know that things are looking bad, and we have a population of young people who don't have the slightest clue what American exceptionalism is, and we ourselves have forgotten how to explain it. That's kind of why we need to look at that video again to make sure that we understand a republic versus the other different forms of government, and then also to listen to this guy from Australia to explain why everybody around the world wants to do business in America, what really is exceptional about America. And Prager University is a great place to learn that kind of thing. And we need to stay in the fight because it is absolutely winnable. Because we're right, and we know we're right, and why would we lose to people who are wrong and who are going to take this country in a bad direction that hurts people? If we give up now, we are signing economic and liberty death warrants for a lot of our fellow citizens, and that doesn't seem like a very nice thing to do. It might be more comfortable for you and your family for you to walk away from the fight, but what are you doing to all of these strangers? How evil are you that you can do that and walk away from all of these other people? Stay in the fight. Be a good person and help other people, and stay in the fight.
Yes, and listen to Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba.
Exactly.
Particularly the part about the drinking, I believe. I think that's the important part of that song, right?
You drink a whiskey drink, you drink a lager drink.
Okay, yeah, never mind. Let's stay away from Tub Thumping. I'm sorry, that was my bad. No Tub Thumping, no Chumbawamba. Just ignore it. Forget it exists. Oy.
Okay, let's talk about the fun story. Let's talk about The 4th of July, people walking around New Hampshire, all the candidates were in New Hampshire and 4th of July, and I mean, obviously massive chaos and all of these presidential candidates that have to be guarded and protected and stuff because some of them are important former governors and some of them are important current senators and others are just regular people and don't need any protection because they're just regular people. Like Hillary's just a regular person. She doesn't need any protection, right? No? She had, I don't know if you guys saw it, but this was absolutely freaking hilarious.
Like, I don't understand, because even for her, this seems like an extreme low.
Well, but it doesn't matter because, you know, Hillary can do and get away with anything, but her staff was intent on separating the press from Her Majesty and making sure that Her Majesty, who, by the way, on a casual Saturday, 4th of July, walking down the street hanging with the people, is still wearing a formal pantsuit business attire. So, yeah, woman of the people. And apparently she was wearing like $350 shoes as she's walking down the street. So she's one of us. But anyway, her staff was intent on keeping the press away from Her Majesty so that she wouldn't get any press cooties on her and so that there wouldn't be any film of the press asking her questions that she would then refuse to answer because I guess we already have enough B-roll of the press asking her questions that she refuses to answer. So her staffers had a rope. They just happened to have it with them, which is weird to me that they just happened to have this rope. And each one held an end of the rope, and they held the press on one side of the rope, and Her Majesty was walking on the other side of the rope, and the staffers ended up creating a circle, and the press was in a circle, and the circle, like a corral, was moving down the street along with Her Majesty. So the press was just in this corral, a rope corral. And there are pictures of the rope corral with the press guys with the camera leaning up against the rope trying to get pictures of the Queen. And they're walking down the street with it. And the press actually put up with this crap. Do you think for a second the press would have put up with that crap if it had been a Republican? Yeah, as Andy says, Rick Perry would have done a much better job lassoing the press.
Oh yeah, that would have been.
He would know how to lasso.
Heck yeah, those reporters would be all tied up in the middle of the street. Yeah.
Yeah, and
It would have
just
been family fun. It would have actually made sense because it would have been family fun.
Yeah, true.
Hog tie the press, that would be great. But
actually,
instead,
the entertaining contrast was that Rick Perry and Jeb Bush were apparently walking down the same street at the same time in New Hampshire, and you know, security was so tight. Rick Perry just broke off. He ran across the street to go throw a hug around Jeb Bush, and they were both wearing jeans and khakis and casual dress, and they weren't surrounded by armed guards, you know, creating a phalanx of protection around them. They were just walking down the street, and you know, Rick Perry being a good sport. Oh, hey, Jeb, because I'm sure they've known each other for years and all of that, and just, you know, bringing the groups together. But you know, Hillary and her crew roped the press, and oh my God, even still today, some of the people in the press are like, well, it was really no big deal. They're arguing on behalf of their own supine behavior.
It's amazing how committed they are to they will literally allow any level of demeaning behavior toward them to support the cause. This isn't, keep in mind, with Barack Obama, they were excited about Barack Obama.
They've been locked in closets at
Yes.
Barack Obama affairs. Locked in closets.
Yeah, but at least they were excited about the candidate. They were excited about him, his persuasive appeal, and all this kind of stuff. They are not excited at all about Hillary Clinton, the person. They couldn't care less. Whereas they looked at him and they were oohing and eyeing. With Hillary Clinton, they see her as just, she is the product we have to sell. And it doesn't matter what she does to us. We will say, yeah, we love her, we love Hillary. Oh, if we could just touch the hem of her garment. But I'm telling you what, Whereas with Barack, they wanted to touch the hem of his garment because they really were swooning. With this lady, they're faking every last ounce of it. They can't take it.
The thing that's just amazing to me, and that I hope that the American people pay attention to. I hope that the people can see this, but obviously it's not something that's going to get too wide coverage. But it's something that'll be quickly forgotten. I'm sure that Hillary won't be using this tactic again, even though she apparently used it back in the 90s. The Clintons allegedly used it back in the 90s. It's just amazing to me that there was better control of the media with Hillary Clinton than there was in Baltimore during the riots. I mean, there's more of a sequestered media with Hillary Clinton walking down a street in broad daylight than there was when there was actual, serious stuff going on in these dangerous situations. It's crazy to me. And if anybody had cordoned off the press in Baltimore, or if anybody cordoned off the press in Ferguson, I can tell you for sure, because I've seen it. I was watching these feeds. The press got so incredibly perturbed with the police, with the people who are preventing them from covering this story. You would think that the press would have some kind of I don't know, self-respect to feel the same way, to feel somewhat similar when you've got a bunch of pimply staffers keeping them away from Hillary Clinton with a little dollar store piece of line. It's amazing.
It really shows, because we were talking earlier about how on the right we attack each other constantly. It really shows that the left has an entirely different mentality. That they can allow them, on the right, we are, as I said before last week, we are dry tinder. Anything sets us off, right? The left, they are willing to allow themselves to be treated like cattle. They are willing to allow themselves to be treated horribly. They can't get an interview. They can't get anything. She's finally going to do that. And yet, folks, they are dedicated they are committed. Anything.
The end justifies the means, and even if the means are personal humiliation.
Right. Anything to get the power to control their fellow Americans' lives. We have to understand, we have to sell out to keep them from doing it.
Pretty much. And on that note, of making sure that we do our best in order to prevent the Democrats from winning. I just want to mention that T in the chat. This is the exact example that I was trying to point out. Somebody who's actually doing it right. T, got 4,479 votes, no TV, radio, or Facebook ads. She won that many votes in her election. She's running again in 2016. She's trying to double her votes and hopefully set up another campaign down the line for state senate. That's exactly how you need to do this. This is the kind of activism. That's how things actually get done. That's how change is actually, change happens, is through people running for these local elections and setting it up for the future. And that's who does that. Who's mentioning that? Who's, beyond saying, oh, well, you should really get involved in politics. Who actually gives specifics on this stuff? It's frustrating that we don't have more people saying that this is how to do it. Here's the playbook. The Dems clearly know what the playbook is. They know how to create how to grow candidates from the grassroots level. We need to be able to make sure that we can do the same. And thank you so much, T, for doing that and for being out there and for being that person, because it's important. We can't win without candidates. We can't win without people like you who are willing to go out there and do the drudge work instead of the stuff that's harder than posting a comment on Facebook. And it's nothing but commendable. So thank you so much, T, for doing that.
Absolutely, absolutely, and staying in the fight and becoming a genuine warrior for the cause. And we all do it in our own little ways, and gradually figuring out what the ways to improve our messaging and take the red meat that Donald Trump is giving us and turn it into the actual conversations that are useful out of what he's saying, and remaining engaged in politics at whatever level we're comfortable with, and recognizing that being engaged in politics doesn't just mean elections and votes. It means, because for us, being engaged in conservative politics means spreading the message of conservatism. And if that means, like Brad Thor, writing conservative thrillers, or doing music with a conservative side of things, or ballet or symphony, or whatever your business is, do your business with a conservative perspective, and be, out and proud conservative. That Because politics is downstream from culture. So if you would rather not be involved in electoral politics, but you want to be involved in creating something of the culture, whether it's education or in your business, in cooking or designing clothes or whatever it is, being a conservative who does that and does it well, and just being part of the world that is conservative, that's being involved in politics, and that is staying in the fight.
My
At what
taxes are too high. I had to cut an employee, so it's really tough. If you say that to your customers, if you say that to somebody who's a regular at your business, are you kidding me? That's something that they will take to heart. That's huge. That's the amount of weight that you as a business owner or somebody in the community has. If you say those words, if you write an op-ed, if you do something like that, that's huge. It's absolutely a huge thing to do, in addition to going out there and making sure that you knock on doors and try and talk to people.
Absolutely. And with that, I believe we're going to close the show. And further, I don't know, is it appropriate to pray for Andy to get the job as the radio guy? Is that, I mean, is that, I don't like to, like, frivolously ask God for favors and stuff, because he's a busy man, got a lot going on. But then again, he is all powerful, so he has the bandwidth to focus on even the smallest things.
Well, and there is that verse that says you have not because you ask not. So, there's nothing wrong with asking.
Okay. So I'm going to, and I wouldn't expect JD will, I don't know. He
Send
won't
out
pray for
good
it, but
vibes.
he'll send out some good vibes. But hey, man, dude, that's like a religious kind of thing, because vibes are like energy and hippies and stuff like that. So you'll just say good
Yeah.
luck. Oh wait, you can't say
Good
good luck.
luck.
Luck is a
Luck is
religious kind of
fine. Luck is not. Luck
spiritual.
is.
Or you could just send an email to Crawford Broadcasting. It's out on our Facebook
There
page.
we go. See, that's what we were trying to set up.
Go out
Okay, so we need a petition. We need a petition. Are we going to do a
Stuff the ballot boxes, guys. Stuff
change.org
the
or
ballot
whatever it
boxes.
is?
Yeah, so just go out to the Facebook page, The Party of Choice. There's a link on there to either to KLZ's Facebook page, or you can send Crawford an email. It's all there.
There you go. And Andy, what would be the name of your show?
I have no clue.
When are you going to find out?
I was so nervous tonight. I mean, so nervous, and so tonight I just called it the audition show.
And that would be an interesting name for a drive time show.
Yeah, why not?
The I don't know what the hell to call it show.
Just hanging out today. Yeah, I think there's 8 or 10 people who are auditioning, so it's probably going to be a couple weeks.
Oh my lord.
Yeah.
Again,
They all
stuff
have.
those ballot boxes.
Do we need to bring baseball bats and go Tanya Harding on them?
Let's not do that. Let's not do that.
Look, these are people who all have lots of experience. I'm new at it, and I understand that. It was a lot of fun to get on air, and I had some fun. I was very nervous, but I loosened up after a while, and Had a good
They
time.
could probably have you cheaper than everybody else, so there's that.
That's what I told them.
Good.
And,
That's your
and
value
Andy,
proposition. Is I'm cheap, man. I'm cheap.
And
I hate to break it to you. I hate to break it to you, Andy, but you've been doing a show on, online internet, whatever this is, for over a year now.
totally different.
No, it's not totally different. It is absolutely not totally different.
Yeah, but look, I only came on the show tonight in the last bit of it, and I blew the thing up.
You were perfect. Oh my God.
That's your superpower, man.
That's my superpower. I am a human wrecking ball. I did tell them if they.
Oh my God, you're the Miley Cyrus of radio.
I am the Miley Cyrus, and it's true because I wore nothing while I was on the air.
Oh gosh.
We don't need these images.
Hey, do you guys realize we're still on the air? And our poor audience is being
I'm having
subjected
fun
to
with this. And I told them if they hired me, I knew where they could get a lot of free atheist help.
Ha!
Oh, there you go. Bazinga! Looping it back. Okay, I'm going to end the part of the broadcast here this evening because we've run over our time a little bit. And I'm going to thank everyone in our audience for listening. And
We're now coming up with Andy titles for his show.
Oh, are they really?
Andy Pandy, Andy's Aneurysms, American Andy. Yeah, they're working on it, so clearly
Oh,
we'll
awesome.
have
American Andy. And what was the first one? Little Anger Andy?
Little Andy Pandy. I don't know why it's
Andy.
strange.
Huh. Yeah, okay. You know what? I'm betting that Brass can come up with some ones that we probably can't say on air.
Probably.
Yeah.
So we should probably switch to not being on air so that we can.
Yeah,
figure them
right.
out.
Anyway, thank you everybody out there in Radio Land for listening this week. We will be back next Tuesday, the 14th, and at 8:45 Central. And in the meantime, you can listen to us on therefineryshow.com and on YouTube and vigilantlibertyradio.us and theaters near you. And you can then, in a short period of time, you'll be able to say you knew Andy before he was famous. And won't that be awesome? So anyway, thank you guys, and we will see you all next week. Goodbye.